Well, of course, it was the final weekend of action in the Premier League. We already knew Liverpool were champions. Arsenal had already qualified for the Champions League. It's about those 3 remaining spots, and in the end, a victory over Fulham was enough to see Manchester City advance. Chelsea, with that win away against Nottingham Forest, saw them book 4th place, and despite losing at home against Everton, Newcastle take 5th, which means that Aston Villa miss out in 6th place. For more on this, let's welcome in Mario Malchiot's with us, Julian with us as well. Former Villa defender Zat Knight joins us as well. What on earth went wrong? One of the biggest games of the season, and Villa forgot to turn up, Zat.
Yeah, I mean, super disappointed in that game yesterday. I thought that was our cup final. That was our cup final yesterday, and we let ourselves down. We didn't turn up. I know Man United never had nothing to play for, and they played like that. Like there was no strings attached to them. They just went out there, had a bit of fun, and we went out there and we looked like we was deer in headlights.
Psychologically, how do you explain that from the players, Zat? Given you had a lot of time to prepare, it's not as if you were distracted with other things that were going on. You knew what was at stake. Fate was in your own hands. Yet, as you say, the first half, Manchester United looked like world beaters.
Yeah, I think that's the best 45 minutes Man United's played this season, and unfortunately, it was one of Villa's worst. And you know, I was so disappointed to play Tottenham at home last week and beat them, and then to go into this game knowing we had to win, and hopefully if we can do our job, other things will fall for us, and it did. All we had to do when we look back at it now is get a point, and we never even got a goal.
Stevie, just explain to me the psychology of the players as to why these sort of games don't turn out the way sometimes we expect, given on paper this is a no-brainer. United had just lost the Europa League, nothing to play for, disgruntled fans. Villa had it all in their own hands. Yeah.
Personally, I would go back to the preparation leading up to the game, you know, the week before. You know, sometimes to concentrate too much, to think too much, to show too much video, to be talking about it too much. You know, I think if I'm the coaching staff at Villa, I'm looking at how we prepared the week leading up to this. You know, there's a fine line between being too relaxed and not doing enough work and doing too much work and focusing too much on the opposition, thinking that you're preparing your team to win the game. And so that to me would be my explanation for the way that Villa turned up. Too much thinking, overthinking the situation, instead of, well, clearly now, if I'm Unai Emery, next time this comes along, I'm letting the players get on with it. I'm letting the players relax. I'm letting the players play, because when you play relaxed, surprise, surprise, you actually do a lot better. And so, for me, I think they had far too much mental preparation for this game.
Which is something that you can't say you've ever had a problem with.
Oh, no.
Mario, overall, do you agree? Do you think the players kind of got in their own head going into this game?
Yeah, but like what Stevie said, you know, like sometimes, also when we go back, you know, even further back, like he's talking about last week, but you also, some clubs, especially Villa, where they're in the up, right? They creating new things. He attracted new players. You understand, when they came to the winter, all the new players, Asensio and Rashford and all them, they joined them. Why? Because they wanted to push to that next level. Then they meet a team like PSG for the Champions League, and they almost played their final at that time, because everybody needed to act the maximum of themselves. And now, yesterday is another final, and when the final then comes, it's sometimes you already played it, and that's how I felt Villa was playing. And they don't have a great record when they go to, Man U. That record is not great of them. So stepping into that game, your history is not that good. But then when you come into it, it felt like they knew that Man United, you know, when you play against a team that's hurting because it's not performing well, you also have to make sure that you start well from the get-go. And I never felt like they were ready to really push that where they had to push it to. And even you can see it with the coach. Everything that happened in that game, he was so passionate and emotional, then you know that your team is not playing the way you want it to play.
What's interesting, Jules, they were clearly robbed and should have been 1-0 up. And obviously, if that goal was given, we'd be having a completely different discussion about it all. I think the referee has admitted that he did make a mistake to Unai Emery. But there isn't as much sympathy as maybe we could have because of that, because of the performance that we saw from Villa pretty much from the get-go.
Yeah, you're right. It was so underwhelming, like the boys have said, plus the red card of Emi Martinez, which is a stupid red card, really. I don't know if this was his last game for the club, but if this was to be the last game for the club, I mean, what a terrible ending, really, for you as a player and for what...
Jules, you mentioned Emi Martinez, maybe his last game. Why is that? Where would he be going?
I don't know, I was told that he wanted to win trophies, which he didn't feel that would be the case at Aston Villa. I'm not sure where he would go to win trophies, to be fair, to be perfectly honest. I'm not sure what his market is. Right now, he's been great for Villa, don't get me wrong. It was they bought him from Arsenal for £20 million at the time, where maybe we didn't expect him to bring that quality to them. He was a game changer, great, and he was a big part of the good things that they did, especially under Unai Emery. But it seems that his last game against Spurs at Villa Park felt very much like a farewell, his lap of honour, the way he waved at the crowd. And certainly the noise that we hear from his camp is that he's ready for a new challenge. Unai Emery, before the game at United on Sunday, didn't seem too keen to answer a question about Emi Martinez's future, because he said, like, no, he's our player, he's going to stay here. So there might be a bit more discussions, but it very much feels a bit, from his end, that he wants a new challenge.
Zat, of course, this is a World Cup winner. Yeah, didn't have the best seasons this year, but a couple of seasons, of course, he's been one of the best goalkeepers in the world. How big a blow is that for Villa if indeed he does leave?
I think it's going to be a massive loss, and I think with Villa not getting into the Champions League, I think we'll miss out on a few players. Maybe there's players what we thought we was probably going to get. Maybe they thought we was going to finish in the Champions League positions, and maybe a few players what want to go and get Champions League football, having a taste of it.
You look at it, Stevie, obviously it's difficult, isn't it, to lose somebody who is so vocal at the back, someone who seems so instrumental, or not?
Well, it's not really just what you've said, it's everything.
Right.
I mean, yes, compared to his previous couple of seasons, he wasn't as good, but then he was excellent. I mean, let's be honest. And he not only is it his communication with the back four, he makes saves, you know, he gets everybody going, the fans love him. I mean, there's everything about this guy that you want. And I was trying to think of who can Villa get that's going to fill his boots? And I don't really think there's anybody. At the same time, when I think about it, where's he going to go to win trophies? Unless he wants to go to a far-flung land where he's guaranteed trophies, but it's going to be too easy. Is that really going to fulfil somebody like him? I don't see it. So I'm not sure how Villa replace him. But I'm not quite sure where he goes either.
Well, it's going to be an interesting transfer market about coming and going, not only with Aston Villa, with players leaving, but elsewhere as well. And that takes us to Jack Grealish. Manchester City, of course, were in action yesterday against Fulham. They won that game by 2-0 to guarantee a place in the Champions League next season. But what was interesting is that Pep Guardiola was asked afterwards about Jack Grealish and the Englishman not being in the squad for the final game of the season. I tell you what, Pep was not happy with that question.
The last 2 months, month and a half, I was 5-6 players at home every time, and now this time I decide for these guys. No more than that. I don't have anything. Of course, Jack has to play. That's the truth. Jack is an unbelievable player that had to play football every 3 days, and didn't happen this season, and last season neither. And they need to do it with us or another place. For example, in the FA Cup final, I rotate, and Rico was not there, Maka was not there, and Kusanov and Victor and Echeverri was here, so it's the same. I try to move the players like it was net, and today it was Jack. No more than that explanation.
Yes, sorry, still on Jack.
No, don't ask me about Jack, please. Ask me that.
You're not happy with him, and he's clearly not happy not to be playing.
Who said I'm not happy with him?
Well, you're not been selecting him.
And? Who said he? I said in my words I'm not happy with him.
No, but if you've got a player...
And, yeah, I don't play the last games, neither play. He was in the bench, and Rico, for me, one of the favourite players I have, he was not selected neither. Makati play against Aston Villa was exceptional, and against another games I played against Wolves was exceptional, and today was not selected too. Why don't ask me about Makati, for example? It's not about personal. I don't have any problems with the players. If you say I'm selecting, we are in trouble, no trouble, we are not selecting, we are in trouble, it's not about that. It's not about that. I have 24 players, I have to get rid of 6 players last game, today 5, because Kovacic has sent off in the last game. Otherwise, I had 6 players at home. And I treat Jack like I think Jack. Now I think in Kusanov, I think in Victor, I think in Makati, I think all the players have not been. But it's not anything personal about Jack, absolutely anything.
Jack Grealish, McAtee, very different situations, of course. Grealish costing 100 million. McAtee coming through the youth ranks. Why were you smiling during that?
I don't understand. You talk about getting a nerve poked, because clearly there's a problem here. You don't go on a rant like that and talk about how good somebody is and what a great player and they should be playing. And his explanation doesn't make any sense. It doesn't add up. He's talking about having to leave people at home. But every single person he talked about that he's left at home on some occasion, they've played. Grealish has never seen the field. I don't remember the last time I saw him kicking a ball. So there's clearly a problem there, and somebody just poked the bear. And hey, you didn't make any sense, Pep.
Zat, are you surprised? Obviously, this is a guy who was key to that treble season for Manchester City. Came in, took a while to kind of adapt to Pep, but once he did, it looked like he was first choice. Yet, last couple of seasons, as Stevie said, we haven't seen much of him at all.
Yeah, I think with Jack, he's the type of player, because he's such a flair player, he wants to get on the board. I think it's right what Pep said. He has to play week in and week out. He can't just be a bit part player, because he needs a rhythm. And obviously he hasn't had no rhythm. So the way he is right now, when he's coming in and playing one game a month, you're not seeing the best Jack. He needs to be playing twice a week. If it's a Tuesday and a Saturday or Sunday, whatever day it is, he needs to find some rhythm to his game. And then obviously not getting selected, he's not finding rhythm. And the small bit part he is playing is not good enough.
Jules, he's 29, by the way. I thought he was younger than that. It was interesting that that graphic obviously says that he's heading into his 30s, Jules. Where's he going to go? No one's paying 100 million for him, obviously.
No, I don't think so. I mean, the value is very different to when they bought him, when he was on the back of that wonderful season with Villa, and the release clause was there, and City paid it. Could he go on loan, a bit like what Raheem Sterling type of, because he's on big wages as well, because of the valuation that they paid for him, and they would not have amortized that just yet. So it's a very interesting one. He has to leave and he has to play. And City are going to recruit more players, by the way. So if now he can't even get in the squad, not even just the bench, but the squad, when City are going to invest massively in the summer again, then there's no room for him in that squad, in that club.
Do you think Villa would have him back, Zat, if that was an option?
If it's a loan deal, they'll probably give it a try, just in the sense where what he'd done for us in the past. But maybe the way Unai plays his football, maybe he won't fit, because the way he played for Villa, everything went through him. And the way we play right now, I don't think everything can go through him. They might think he might disrupt the team.
Who would you prefer, Zach? Simply Rashford or Grealish?
Jack.
Ah, Jack. There you are. Mario, what's happened to Jack Grealish?
I think, look, coach, there was a time when they were in the difficulty, City. And he had to make quick choices. He went for speed. And I think, like the Grealish that we know would always take anybody on. Then I saw it seeing less from him, especially on the outside. When a player doesn't take you on the outside, that means that he's doubting his own ability in the sense of the speed. So Doku started playing that position. And then Doku started playing more. But normally you expect the battle to carry on. But he didn't carry on with the battle because Pep chose for, sometimes he knew that they were dismantling his team. So that's why he chose for speed. And I think that's what is the biggest question to him. And that Pep gets emotional by it. Normally he answers those questions. But this is something that he knew that he left the kid out. And he knows that Grealish, as an individual, he came there as a star player from Aston Villa, coming in there. You don't want to sit on the bench. He knows that he doesn't like it. He's not happy. So if I was Grealish, think about your future. If you want to play the game, you got to make a decision. If not, you sit nice and dry where you are. But I don't think as a footballer you would like that.
Where does he fit, Jules?
It's a good question, because you made a really good point, Dan, in the way he changed his game. He was a very different player at Villa, obviously. Like Zat mentioned, everything had to go through him. One-on-one, he was brilliant. And then at City, Pep taught him about control. And you're there not to go one-on-one all the time and trying to take on people. You're there to control the tempo of a game. You're a very different winger than you used to be. You're a very different winger than the winger on the other side, for example. And now it feels like you're a very different winger than what Pep wants, which is Doku and Savinho and that pace and those one-on-one abilities that now you don't provide anymore so much. So It's interesting. I still think that there will be a market for him in England. I still think that people recognize the talent that he has and the experience that he would bring now. But there's probably a question mark over his fitness because he missed some games this season too because of injuries. And that's a little bit of a worry when you're approaching 30 on the wages that he's on. That's why we think that probably a loan deal is the most likely. But again, you'll have to find an agreement over his wages and who pays one, how much do City still pay, how much does the new club pay, and that's not going to be easy.
Zach, how hard would you push if you're Aston Villa to get him back?
I will push because I feel that he'd probably be comfortable. I know Birmingham's not far from Manchester, but it's familiar. It's a familiar place, so hopefully he can come back. I would break the bank. I would really break the bank to get him back and make him feel welcome. And hopefully he can get us back to the heights that we did have this season.
Mario says you're speaking nonsense, Zach. Mario?
Yeah, no, says my buddy. I never do that to him. No, but one thing you don't say what's very important. Seth said it before prior to a couple of minutes ago. They don't play Champions League, So to be able to pay him, you understand? You gotta also think about your budget because the budget is not like what they expected it to be. So even if you loan a player like Grealish, you still have to remember his salary. It's going to be a very important point for Emirates to think about how he's going to structure his ability to make sure that he can handle those expensive players.